As a black artist, and like I said, it literally blew me away when they told me my stuff wasn't black enough. But on some level, I think it's important that black artists or black art does have some cultural flavor to it, because I think the need for that is out there, the representation for that is out there. I would hate to see black culture and the black image disappear in the public space because all black artists did things that did not have that cultural flavor to it. So I think, going back to the other question, I think it's important that the cultural flavor of the black image remains in the public space, and that black artists continue to represent that visually from within.
Okay, so I just moved into the city recently, and I didn't know much about the history of York City before I got here. There's a lot of history in York City, and so part of the reason why my wife and I moved here is because celebration of diversity and racial reconciliation are close to our hearts. And so my question would be, it's kind of two-part, I guess. One, do you think it's as important a question in art to ask what is Latin American art, or what is white art, or what is Asian art, or something along those lines? And then second, how do you balance the idea of celebrating and remembering and telling the story of one's own culture with the idea of wanting to celebrate the diversity of all cultures everywhere? You know, the human story. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes perfectly good sense. And I'm going to try to make sure I get all the parts of your question and statement. But I was talking earlier to the group about how history is written and told one way right now. And basically, it's from a white perspective. And so now we've got black history and Hispanic American history and all these other histories that now need to be kind of poured into this. But nobody's lining up to say, well, let's rewrite all the history books. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. So these things have to coexist alongside. And maybe at some point, they will all kind of roll into one. But whenever there is a hegemonic power, a dominant structure that controls how we view history and that interprets things for us, those other elements of history and that story are never going to be completely told from at least that individual's point of view. They're just going to be fit into how the story has already been told. So it's important to kind of be able to tell your own story, you know, like the proverb says, because it's really never going to be written your way, because especially if it contradicts the way it's already been told. Nobody, again, they're not going to rewrite history. And a lot of people are concerned about history being rewritten. Yes, I do think it's just as important to have Hispanic art and Asian American art and Native American art, because there's a rich culture to that, and we have to value that. You know, here in this country, there are other ethnicities that, you know, it's very well celebrated. Think St. Patrick's Day. You know, how many of us are truly Irish here? But the whole country celebrates it. But when you're celebrating and talking about your Irish ethnicity, it's heritage. Let's go out and have a party about it. But then everybody else has to be a culture point. So, or, you know, you have to kind of have your little month and you kind of squeeze it in. But, you know, there are certain European foundations that are heritage, like there's a right to it, where the other pieces are kind of a sidebar.